Abbott Elementary Season 3, Episode 11, Double Date, and Episode 12, Mother's Day are over, but we're just getting started here on RecapKickback.com. Yes, that's right. RecapKickback.com is your place for our Abbott Elementary post-show recap coverage of this amazing show that, I love it. And if you've been just now finding us, strap in because it's going to be a good time. My name is Chappell, and with me, per usual, it's the principal, who would join Mr. Johnson in an apocalypse. It's Gia. Principal Gia, what's up?
Oh, I am doing good. We are finally getting towards the end of season 3. I'm very excited to see how we wrap up this short but very sweet season. And I really liked these 2 episodes in particular, so I am very happy. I think the book club side plot of the Double Date episode might be one of my favorites that we have gotten in Abbott Elementary. So this has just been a great time.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I thought about it because there's been some bangers throughout this season. Like we've had a few episodes where I've been like, man, that's good. Like I've watched a few of these episodes multiple times just for fun. And oh man, Gia, the Double Date episode, that might be one of my favorites of all time.
Now, I would say I think the book club makes up for the fact that Gregory was pissing me off every moment of this. I cannot with this man. All right, mister. I put a period on that. Do not piss me off, sir. Okay. We still have 3 episodes left after the Double Day, and nonsense, nothing but nonsense around.
Yeah, that's correct. So, in the past, we've had longer seasons of Abbott, but as we discussed before, due to the recent writer strike and stuff, we only get a limited amount of episodes this season. And so, yeah, our next podcast will cover the last 2 episodes of season 3. So it'll be episode 13 and then the finale. But yeah, Gia's not wrong. We have a couple more episodes to go and enough time for Gregory to fix this because this was a disastrous episode for him in so many ways. But to me, Gia, this is exactly what I needed for Gregory because I needed some reinforcement to remind me that this man, he knows where home is, right? He knows he should be with Janine, and it just came jumping out of his skin in this episode. Like he could not hide it. And I was like, yes, look at you. We caught you. You're on candid camera now. Like,
absolutely not. This man is for the streets, Chappell. He is for the streets. I am so sick of his ass. You cannot just put a period on something and then be mad when when Janine is on this weird double date that's not actually a date. But also, Erica was very offended that Gregory thought that she was on a date with Tariq in this scenario, which is fair. Yes. But yeah. Yes, it was great. Great.
But meanwhile, Gregory's on a date, Gia. That's the thing that is really just like the thing that no one will say out loud is that you're mad about Janine potentially being on a date while you're literally on a date.
I felt so bad for Miss Lara Jean over there. She was going through it there. That poor girl. I would be Avi in this situation, who was just was this a date? Yes. Was there any romance happening on this double date? No. Was there lots of drama? Yes. And he was eating that up. I love a messy individual, like that. He was living for the mess. It was not his mess, but he was able to spectate the mess. And I think that's important.
Right. And so I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. So we're going to talk about season 3, episode 11 and 12. And normally, we'll jump around a little bit, but I do kind of want to talk about these 2 episodes separately because I think they were so good for different reasons. I don't want to bury the lead anymore. So let's just get into the Gregory and Janine of it all. Jacob invites Gregory on a double date with Avi, the EMT that he's been dating, and Olivia, and who we've never met before or heard of, but she is there, and it looks like her and Gregory are hitting it off immediately. Like when we see them, we don't even see Jacob and Avi at all. They're already out. They're talking, they're bonding over how weird and nerdy they are. When Gregory for me, I started thinking, okay, maybe they're going to draw out this Janine and Gregory. Won't they even more? Because there's going to be a new love interest in his life, right? Olivia has shown up. We really like her because that's the thing. When it's bad enough when a character that you enjoy, but you want to be with somebody else, but then somebody else come in and you actually like the person, right?
Yes.
And so I thought that was like my biggest fear. Like, oh no, Olivia's gonna come in. I'm gonna be like, oh no, she can stay. But during this double date, Gregory cannot even focus on his beautiful date because he has noticed that Janine is sitting in the corner of the room with Manny. And I have been trying to convince myself that we did not have to worry about Manny at all. Gia, was there any moment where you actually thought this was a date?
Sort of, but the fact that he was freaking out so much, just like sitcom one-on-one, I kind of had a feeling it wasn't, especially once Tariq and Erica were there. But, like, do I think we will have to worry about Manny in the future? I think so, personally. And I think Gregory deserves that. You know, like, he deserves to shake in his boots a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't trust Manny. I never have. I thought in the first couple episodes they made it look like he might be the potential love interest, and then they move away from it because we really get a lot of will they won't they with Janine and the district, and and coming back to Abbott. Well, by this episode she's back at Abbott. That drama is gone, but the Manny situation is starting to reappear potentially. Now we will find out eventually that Manny and Janine are not on a date, but throughout, Gregory cannot take his eyes off of them from across the room. He hasn't heard anything his date is even saying because he's watching how they're moving. And first they're sitting across from each other, Gia, and then next thing you know, they're sitting next to each other. He's putting in a mint. He's got his date beard on. He's leaning over toward Janine. You didn't think for a second they were going to kiss?
I was not this episode. Do I think it'll happen in the future? Possibly. I mean, they had a point about Janine being in her freakum dress, though. You know, like that was not date attire. I will just say, like, you are hoping for something to happen when you put on a freakum dress. I'm sorry.
Right, because okay, come with me on this journey because I'm not saying Gregory was right. But I do think there was a little smoke that we could not avoid, right? So Olivia, someone who does not know Janine, does point out that it is a freakum dress. And so I was like, all right, Gregory, we watching. He ends up yelling from across the room and getting all this attention on him to break up what he thought was going to be a kiss, only to walk over and find out that Janine and Manny both categorically deny that there's anything going on. So they kind of talk it through, and it sounds like they have, at best, an alibi for every single thing that Gregory's suspecting. But there's one moment, Gia, that I just don't think that they really covered up well. They said they came to this bar together because it's the only place you can pull out a laptop after a certain time. It's the only bar that does not frown upon you doing work at the bar. Gregory ain't seen no laptop, and I didn't see one either. Gia,
there was no laptop.
I ain't tripping. They're trying to gaslight me. They're trying to gaslight us. I think there was a date. I don't care.
I would say now, I don't think this was a date. Like, I don't think they declared it to each other that it was a date. But there was no laptop. And therefore, I think they were both going there under the guise of it being a work outing, a work meeting, when they don't even work together in the same building anymore. So, like, Manny, what are you doing here? And also, I think they were both kind of hoping a little bit that it was going to be a date, because I also did not see a laptop. There was no laptop. There was no Mac, no PC, no Dell, no nothing.
Yeah. Well, see, Gregory was off the mark in so many other ways that I almost missed that they never really accounted for the lack of laptop. So he says, oh, you're on a double date with Tariq and Erica. That's your first red flag, Gregory, because even if you think Janine would go on a double date with Tariq, there's no world. It doesn't exist. Erica would literally never do that. So I was like, all right, that's out the window. And I'll just say it. I loved Erica so much in this episode, Gia. She had all the smoke for Gregory. It was so good.
I am so happy she's back. I've seen a couple comments. Now, we talked about this a little bit throughout the season, that we really haven't seen, especially in the earlier episodes, where the the district's plot line is really at its height. We really haven't seen a lot of side characters. Like, I'm talking about like any of the other staff outside of the core cast, any of like the outside friends and everything like that. So we really didn't see Erica up until this episode, and I am so glad she is back. And based on some of the sneak peeks I have seen of future episodes that we will not be talking about here, it looks like she will be making an appearance as well. So any episode with Erica is a good time for me, because she really is somebody that is like the best friend you want and need, and she is always in Janine's corner. Like, she takes her position as bestie very seriously.
Yeah, and she called Gregory out. She said, "Oh, that girl you with is cute." And Gregory don't say nothing. He doesn't even defend himself. And Janine doesn't pry. But I'm like, Erica's on it. She's watching. She's keeping an eye on him, because she can tell there's some feelings just jumping out of Gregory that he can't even hide. So we find out that, yeah, they were eating a lot of garlic bread. So Manny popped the mint. He didn't want to, be disgusting in front of Janine. And I totally understand that. Obviously, Janine would not be double dating with Erica and Tariq, because that doesn't make any sense. And they switched sides to sit next to each other because they were looking at a text thread. This all seems like it tracks, but I cannot ignore the lack of laptop. I'm sorry, Gregory. I really do think that Manny is somebody we should be concerned about. If you're going to make this move, I think he has to do it soon, Gia. I think he cannot sit in this, what do you say, a stop sign or his period on it. Like, he can't sit in that pause that he tried to put on this thing. But what do you think the holdup is right now? Because she's back. He's clearly feeling it. Why won't he make a move?
I think he's being difficult. We know that. But I also just think that he is he is an awkward person. He doesn't know when the right time is. Like, just because you see somebody all the time does not mean that like you are gonna have like the perfect moment to ask anybody out. And like, they work together, so that's another complication. Not necessarily in like their relationship, but in how they are, like, you can't just ask someone out at work. Like, that's just like that's just never a good idea. So it's just like, it's a lot of different factors. And also, she just got back. So we're really kind of like on pause with a lot of this drama right now.
Yeah, and I was enjoying it. I'm telling you, I really enjoyed this episode. I love seeing Gregory squirm. I love watching Jacob watch Gregory squirm, because Jacob's loving it too, because he can tell that at any minute the last straw is going to break, and he's not going to be able to hold it in anymore. He's going to ask Janine out at some point. It's just a matter of when. So by the end of the episode, we see Gregory also trying to grow out a beard, probably prompted by Manny. Jacob is able to grow out one, but Gregory's beard, I think Melissa said it'd be the 7th best beard in her class of children.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it was so funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how Gregory would look with a beard. I don't think everybody's made to have a full beard, Gia.
No, I think like the idea that everybody look like men all look better if they grow out a beard is a myth. Like, driven by ugly people that need a beard, like it's a bit of an agenda.
Yeah.
And some people do look very, very good with a beard. Like, do not mistake me, but I don't think everybody is like needs a beard or should try to grow a beard.
Right.
There's a certain standards and practices we should all be reviewing.
And honestly, growing a beard is hard. See, I have a beard, but I kind of keep it low because I don't want it to look patchy or anything like that. So I do like the low beard. But growing a beard, if you don't just got it, some people just got it. Genetics or whatever. You wake up one day, you got a full beard. But if you kind of got the baby face like myself, you got to brush your skin. You got to train your follicles to start. You got to engage them, and that's just a lot of work. So I felt bad for Gregory. Honestly, I kind of felt seen, but I definitely felt bad for Gregory not having his full ass date beard that he wanted. That's the big headline from that episode. But I was so excited to talk to you about this episode specifically, because who better to talk about a book club with than Principal Gia Worthy? Gia, how do you not have a book club podcast by now?
Reading is like my thing to do away from podcasts. So if I turn reading into podcasting, it's just it's another thing to worry about, you know, like I need a new laptop first. Like there's just got to be a lot. Yeah, like there's a lot going on there. But I do love to read. I have a lovely little collection of books that keeps growing. Do not ask me how long my TB read is, because it's very long. But books keep on coming out. Like I'm telling, like we need to slow down the production of books because they keep pushing new ones, and like I haven't gotten through the old ones yet. So we have this book club. Ava has started to enjoy the love of reading thanks to Cree Summers, our lovely librarian. I forget Miss Inez.
Miss Inez, yes, Roz.
Yes, she will always be Cree Summer to me.
Always.
And they are starting a book club, and they are starting with, I think, what is a very good pick to be featured on this show, which is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Or was it? I think it was Parable of the Sower.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I think like them highlighting Octavia Butler in particular is just a great choice and very on brand with the Abbott agenda. So I was very happy about that. And but as we can expect by a book club that is run by Ava, things derail very quickly, and not for the reasons that maybe one would think going into a book club.
Yeah, this is exactly what you get from an Ava book club. First of all, she calls it Ava and her reading bitches. And I said, okay, you know what? Honestly, sign me up. I'll take it. Mr. Morton said, yep, I'm a reading bitch. And I said, you know what? Sometimes that's just who you are. Sometimes that's just what you got to be. And so, yeah, they have this book club. And I think the one thing I liked about the book club is that it really did get a lot of the players together that we don't really see interact that often. So we get Miss Inez, aka Cree, Barb, Melissa, and Mr. Morton as well, all in this book club together, reading this book by Octavia Butler. This book is like a climate fiction book that talks about, you know, a post-apocalyptic world, and that's just Ava's alley. That's her lane. You know, we know that she's a doomsday prepper. We know that she probably has a bunker, and we know that she has fresh water hidden somewhere in that school. So I knew that Ava would love this. But what I loved even more was that everybody had to then have a conversation about what they would do or what skills they would have, I guess, in a post-apocalyptic world. Gia, have you ever had this conversation with people? Like, have you ever really sat down and talked about what would you be in a world like this?
Well, I was a sociology major, so we had conversations like this all the time of like the social world, like scenarios, like if you are in an emergency situation, what would be like the skills that are valued in there? It's like one of those like intro to sociology exercises that that I feel like anybody involved in social sciences has done at one point. But definitely stuff like this really makes you think about, you know, I feel like it happens every now and then. You think about like, what would my skills be? What would I be bringing to the situation? Would I be someone with a lot of skills? Would I want to be a lone wolf? Would I want to team up? I just want to steal things, you know, like
yes,
I don't, like, I don't know if I'm there for a long time, but I, you know, like every once in a while, just have an urge to steal, and it's not acceptable in today's society in its current form. But if we were ever in an apocalyptic setting, best believe I want to be little grabby hands.
Yeah. So I never thought about this when I was younger. And then recently I became friends with Davey Rickenbacker, who is obsessed with The Walking Dead. And so we would literally have text conversations about what skills everybody brought to the table in case, you know, anything ever popped off. Because I think it's Davey's dream to have a zombie takeover. Like I really do think that's the world he's waiting on, because he's so prepared for it, right? He's very much like Ava in that way. And so whenever he would come to me like, Chappell, what do you bring to the table? I'm always, I don't look. I have charisma. You know, I'm very funny. You know,
I'm bringing a positive attitude, Davey.
Right, upbeat. You know, I got some jokes for you. I'm like Mr. Morton, except I'm not good at science and I don't know anything about plate tectonics or the periodic table. But I think I'm be useful. But one thing I'm definitely going to do is steal, because if I have to go out, in like some disgusting post-apocalyptic world. While I'm there, I'm gonna be the richest person that you know. Like I'm not, and it's not gonna be money. It's just gonna be stuff I've always wanted.
Like, you know, the Little Mermaid, how she has like all of her little trinkets in there. That's what I would do. I would just
Yes.
hoard up. My condo would be filled with random shit that will be useful at random times to different people. But it's gonna be like a little dragon cave. Like, this is my hoard of shit that I am gathering together. Yeah, I would just want to steal. I would like to be a thief and but I think also we get this question a couple times in like different forms. Like, what crime would you want to commit during the purge? Like, if the purge is real, what crime would you commit? And of course, mine is stealing.
Stealing, yeah. I want stuff. I want things I can't get now.
I don't want to. I don't have a bloodlust. I don't want to murder. I'm not like, that's just not me. I don't consider myself like a very angry person. I don't have a vendetta against anybody. I just want to steal stuff. I have a vendetta against all of the stores that are way too expensive for me.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the king of looting. If give me a chance, put me in the game, I swear I wouldn't let you down. I watched so many episodes of Supermarket Sweep with my granny that I've prepped for this. Okay, I got it down packed. Because some of these teachers, they have other skills that, like you said, you and we don't really have a bloodlust for anything. But Miss Inez says that she could strangle someone with her bare hands if pushed to that. And I thought, I probably couldn't do that. I don't think I could just off somebody with my bare hands.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I'd have it in me. Like, maybe if they tried to attack me first, but also I have little hands. I don't like, who am I overpowering? Like, let's be real.
Look, Miss Inez has small hands too, but she was able to. She said she could will herself to do it if she needed to.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as cool as Miss Inez. I mean, like, we knew that, but
it's pre-summer. Like, we knew
it's pre-summer. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I have that in me. I don't know. Like, I feel bad when I step on someone's foot. I don't know if I could strangle somebody and just be like okay with it afterwards.
Yeah,
and at least ruin my day.
Right. Yeah, I'd be pretty annoyed, or at least annoying for the next few hours.
Yeah.
Melissa says she can do what needs to be done, which nobody's questioning that. Melissa would be perfectly fine. You know. She during the purge, she's going to commit way more crimes than you and I could ever commit. Let's see. Mr. Johnson says that he can fish and throw a plunger. And of course, Barbara says her faith and her voice would be very big deals for her. And so now they're all sitting around thinking, well, who would be the leader of this ragtag group of misfits? And Barbara thinks, because of her spirituality, that she would be number one pick. But I think Melissa points out that maybe, just maybe, there's like, some religious boundaries that she wouldn't be able to cross in good faith if something like this happened. So of this group, Gia, who would you want in charge of your zombie apocalypse team?
Oh, absolutely. It is the duo of Mr. Johnson and Melissa, because they want us to survive, right? Like, this was no contest for me. I think the matchups that we had during the when things start breaking out into small groups, and I am so happy we got the duo of Melissa and Mr. Johnson. Is like one of my favorite underrated pairs of the show, because they just bring out the most unhinged of each other. They are great. I love the Melissa Mr. Johnson duo, and they were right. They have like very specific skills that they can bring. They are there to survive. Their skills are related to survival, and they are not going to worry about things that will get in the way of that survival. Like, I'm sorry, they do have a point. I'm sorry for people of faith, but they have a point about, Jesus might be getting in the way of my ability to strangle or not strangle people with my bare hands. Like, there's a reason it's called Catholic guilt, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's going to be some things that Jesus is going to just frown upon at the very least, that you might say, all right, maybe I can't do this. But this parallels with the book Parable of a Sower so much, because in the book as well, they're able to form like smaller camps, right, where these people are like saying, oh, well, this is the group I would go with, this is the group I would go with. And Ava splits the book club up into those camps as well. But she does it in a way that each of the groups is probably with somebody very similar to them, or with like a similar outlook on how these things go. So like you said, Melissa and Mr. Johnson end up together. And then Ava is with Miss Inez. And then, of course, Barbara is with Mr. Morton because nobody else could suffer through Mr. Morton. Mr. Morton's going through in this episode, Gia. This divorce is whooping his ass.
I was so happy that we got Mr. Morton back. We're finally starting to see the other, some of the other like side characters back. We get a very fun cameo at the very end of this episode as well that we'll get into. They had and Mr. Morton has a whole personality now. He's got a whole backstory. His couple counseling is not going well. Were you surprised to hear he was married to a woman?
I won't say surprised, but I definitely was like, Mr. Morton, honestly, I'm not surprised you're getting a divorce. I think that was the more thing that I was like, Mr. Morton, I was surprised that he was married. I think that was the real kicker, Gia, because I'm like, Mr. Morton, he had some issues, and I did suspect a little tension between him and Jacob that might have leaned towards something that the infighting between the two of them could have been signaling something else.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I thought they were going to go that route. I was wrong. I apologize. That was on me. I got ahead of myself. I didn't know what I was talking about. I read too many books again. But yes. Mr. Morton as like this whole personality now. I feel like he's going to be like the Toby adjacent character of this series right now. You can't fire him, not without cause. It is because I hate him. Like, that is where we are going with this man. But I thought this was so funny. And he definitely brought something to the table. I don't know exactly what it was, but he brought something, and it was not his couples counseling skills, because it is not going well.
No, it's bad. But he is the person who ordered the DoorDash. And so when they get their food delivery, we saw that Barbara wanted to get some water, but Melissa and Mr. Johnson have already put an embargo on that. No, you can't get no water. I think Mr. Johnson said, "Why don't you pray for it?" And I said, "All right, now it's getting ugly."
I screamed a little bit, and not Ava. Well, I guess Ava a little bit too, but Barbara does not play with her faith, I thought we were about to see some hands.
Right. Well, we probably would have, but to Barbara's benefit, Mr. Morton is the one who ordered the DoorDash. And so the food shows up, and now her camp has the food. And while they get the food, Mr. Johnson very savvily just recruits the DoorDasher as another member of his splinter group. That made me laugh.
That DoorDasher was a star. I'm so happy. It was great.
Mm-hmm. The only problem with the DoorDasher is that he read the wrong book. And, so very quickly, he joins the crew, but then by the end of it, he realizes that he don't even know what's going on. So he does leave. And then on the Ava end of things, Ava is hoarding the food that Mr. Morton bought because he has given her the wings. She told him to. And he did it. And so I'm starting to look at Ava like, look at her, a principal, someone who knows how to take charge. We've talked about this before. We cannot stop beating this dead horse. We will beat this drum until the end of time. Ava is supposed to be in charge of these people. Look at how she just seized control the way only Ava could do it.
I'm sorry, but like every season they complain that Ava is ill-equipped to be a principal, that she does not have the criteria. They do not understand what it takes to be in such a consistent position of authority and leadership, and Ava does, and she exercises it very thoroughly here. I'm sorry, they could not do what she does.
Mm-mm. No, she could do all their jobs. They can do what she does, or maybe she couldn't do their jobs, but in my mind, she could, right? So by the end of this, Ava and the crew has to look around and say, all right, are we misinterpreting everything? Should we be maybe trying to collaborate more? But when Barb and Melissa decide they're not going to play these games and that they're going to leave, Ava completely just drags them back down to her level. They're like, we're above this. And she goes, no, you're not. And she starts to give them the slow clap as they're supposed to leave the room. And just that slow clap alone was able to drag Barbara and Melissa back into a standoff with Ava in the cafegematorium where they have been having this book club at. And by the end of it, they have spent the entire night in Abbott as a way of protesting Ava being in charge of the book club apocalypse team that doesn't actually exist. And they're woken up by somebody who we've been looking for a very long time. Our cafeteria lady's back.
Shanae!
Yes.
I love me some Shanae.
Yeah. Did you notice how the show just gave us all the people we've been begging to see for a very long time back? We got Erica, Shanae, we got more Mr. Johnson, of course. We got Mr. Morden in this episode too. I was like, okay, y'all heard us complaining. They listened to Recap Kickback.
I was about to say, confirmed they listened to the podcast. Thank you.
Obviously. Yeah, obviously. But Shanae is the only person who's actually read the book and comprehended it. She points out that it's not about them finding which faction would do the best. The author actually wants you to look at diversity of thought in order to run a society. Now, Gia, you have a sociology background. I'm pretty sure you saw this coming.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think with all of these, like books like this, a lot of these, what is the word? Not satire, but like
this trope.
Yeah, this trope of book, something that has like a deeper underlying meaning, like books like Parable of the Sower. If you get too much into like the storyline, you're going to lose what the actual themes and point of the book is. We see stuff like this with books like 1984, some of my favorite like satire books like Kurt Vonnegut, Catch-22. Kurt Vonnegut did not write Catch-22. That is a separate example. So do not come in my comments saying I got it wrong. And so like things like that, it's like if you get caught up too much in the story, you lose the plot a little bit. And this is the group that is like, they know how to lose the plot. All right. They're a competitive group of people. They do have that diversity of thought, but in terms of whose thought is the correct thought, really, there's no such thing. But especially for a situation like this, but we make the rules of society. And I think Octavia's point of the book is a much deeper meaning and something that is more complex than pointing to who is like the correct person for this activity. But it's Abbott Elementary. So they're not, the episode itself is about the mess that ensues when you lose the plot.
Yeah, I think Melissa says it where she goes, I'm an American. I don't listen to other people. I don't change my opinions. You know what I'm saying? Like exactly. She's already, she's 10 toes down. So there's nothing you can do. But spending the night in a school and having the cafeteria lady kind of line you up in the morning, that'll do it. That'll really make you start to take a look at yourself and say, all right, maybe we've lost the plot. Maybe we've missed the point of the book. And we should be looking at this very differently. And so it was a fun episode for sure. I enjoyed seeing them all interacting, obviously. But I loved, my favorite moment is definitely Ava sitting up on top of her perch with the wing and telling Mr. Borden to kiss the wing. Yeah.
And he does. And then Barbara's like, what is wrong with you? And
stand up.
It's so, but actually though, that poor man, he had a rough episode, but I'm glad he's back.
He did. We need more updates about his divorce proceedings because it's they're really driving his personality right now.
It's definitely going towards a divorce, right? Like he's saying couples counseling isn't going well, but like I don't see how this doesn't end up in a divorce.
No, this man needs to be alone. He needs to be single for a little bit so he can work on himself. At least until he figures everything out, right? You go sit in the corner until we can figure out what to do with you, Mr. Borden.
I know, like the fact. I'm sorry. Once he started bringing up how the hentai was a big problem, I was over it. I'm like, oh, absolutely not. First of all, like, what did Barbara do to get that out of you? Because God themselves could not get anything like that out of me. All right, like that, sir. That is something you say to yourself away at night, like, oh, please no, please God no.
Yeah,
he needs to be alone for a while. Like alone, like without oversharing any of this, because I did not need to know any of this. Thank you.
Big agree. So episode 12 is the Mother's Day episode, and it would have dropped on Mother's Day. So we had a big Mother's Day surprise for our people. But this episode is a little bit more touching than the last episode, obviously, because they're going to touch on Mother's Day. And we know that some of our characters, and we learn even more about some of our characters' estranged relationship or their interesting relationships with their mothers. So we already go into this knowing that Janine and her mom don't quite see eye to eye. We thought there was a chance that we would get to Raji, but we got her voice, Gia. We heard her on the phone.
We got her voice, and we got a cameo that I should have expected at this point, but was still very surprised to see at the end of the episode. And it was like, honestly, one of the funniest side like plots. I don't even want to call it a plot because it just came up at like very random parts of this episode, but it was so funny. And it's so out of pocket. And then the person that this storyline is about is in on the joke. It was just perfect.
Yeah, so let's build to that a little bit. We get Janine, who it's Mother's Day. She doesn't have the best relationship with her mom, and we find out that she doesn't know who her dad is at all. Is this the first time she's ever said that to us, Gia, or did we just like have just never seen her dad?
I feel like, so if I remember correctly, in like some of the earlier episodes, she just talked about how her parents weren't around. And we knew more about like what that meant with her mom, but we didn't really get commentary either way on their dads, on her dad. So we learned here that like not only does she not know her dad, but like her and her sister have different dads as well.
And Ava makes the offhand comment that obviously they have different dads because we know that Janine's sister is much taller, and you know there's only a few people who are short enough to have procreated and conceived someone at Janine's height, and so she just jokingly throws out that maybe Kevin Hart could be Janine's dad. And when this happened, I laughed, and I thought it was going to go away. But
yes,
the horror throughout the episode as I watched this slow moving train wreck, Gia, this woman, Janine, deep down in her soul of souls, she really wanted Kevin Hart to be her dad. And that was heartbreaking to me.
Yeah. I know. I mean, like, there was no way that this was going to end with Kevin Hart being her dad. And we really don't know a ton about like how old her mom was when she was pregnant with Janine. We really don't know anything about like the timeline of their family or anything like that. But it was just very nonsensical aspect of it for a Mother's Day episode as well. But the more that we learn about this scenario, there's always that thing in the back of your head that's like, but what if? You know? What if? I don't know. It's just it's crazy to kind of process. Like it was a crazy route for them to go this episode. That made it all the better when we get to the very end of the episode. It was perfect finish to this. I'm so glad they went the route that they did with this.
Yeah, Janine calls her mom and says, "Hey, mom, remember when you told me you went to school with Kevin Hart and did y'all date?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, I went to school with him. He was on the basketball team. He won the dunk contest, but we didn't date. We actually just had sex. And so that's it. We had sex." And so this was kind of like the laptop conversation with me again, Gia, where I was like, "Okay, she said she had sex with Kevin Hart. That okay, fine." So she would know that. She would know if she had sex with Kevin Hart. But there's a 0% chance Kevin Hart was winning the dunk contest on the basketball team. So at that point, I was conflicted.
Well, what that tells me is that Kevin Hart was not the only short man in high school. So maybe it was another if her mom did get pregnant in high school, that mayhaps this is, there was another short fella that is inconsequentially the Janine's bastard father.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, because in my mind, I ruled out Kevin Hart the moment Ava said Kevin Hart. But then when Janine's mom says, "Oh, no, I slept with Kevin Hart," I know I did. I was like, okay, well, you would know. But then when she says dunk contest, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that Kevin Hart is on the basketball team winning a dunk contest. Well, I don't think Kevin Hart can dunk. I just truthfully do not think he can do it. And so, I mean, he might be able to do it. There's probably a video of him dunking somewhere, and I look dumb right now, but just based off of, just height and, just gravity, I didn't think that was something that he could pull off. But you bring up an interesting point. She had sex with somebody. And so maybe, just maybe, there's another mildly short, maybe not as short as Kevin Hart, obviously, but there's probably like another shorter guy that has had sex with Janine's mom that could potentially be her dad. Do you think there's any world where we get the conclusion to is Janine's dad? Well, who is Janine's dad? Do we get that anytime soon? Like, will we get the paternity results?
I was actually about to ask you the same thing. Like, is there a world where we find out Janine's dad? I'd be fine with us not knowing, honestly. Like, I don't need to know. If they listen, like, their casting has been on point. So if they find the perfect person to play Janine's absentee father, I would not be disappointed in that. I have faith that they would do it in a way that I would thoroughly enjoy. But I also kind of like the point that they made towards the end, which makes us kind of learn a little more about some of these other characters. Like, we talked about how better absentee dad than a neglectful one, or like not knowing your dad than having a dad that failed you in other ways. Which I think kind of alludes to, based on what we heard, like, basically that, like, that's what Erica and Ava experienced in their life based on the conversation that we had. It's not like confirmed on Ava's side, but as someone that does like have a really good relationship with their dad, I think it would be hard to have like that person in your life if they were constantly failing you. So I don't know what we could really expect from that. It almost feels a little cliche to have like a dad reveal at the end, because I think a lot of, there are a lot of people that live very fulfilling lives not knowing who their dad is. But if it's something that's really bothering Janine, I don't see why she wouldn't pursue it, but I think that it could go, either really well or really bad.
Right. The way she followed this Kevin Hart thread in this episode leads me to believe that if the opportunity came up again, she would definitely be down for hunting her dad down, because she had almost nothing to go off of except for Ava. And she really, really went down the wormhole. But I'm with you on that one. If it's going to lead to her having any heartbreak or anything like that, like, I don't love that for my characters. Like, when I get a favorite character or like somebody I'm rooting for on the show, I don't really want them to deal with all that stuff, because again, this was like a train wreck to me, watching her slowly find out that Kevin Hart was not her dad. She has been stalking him on social media and really trying to get him to notice her, until eventually she does act. We actually do. We get to see Kevin Hart on Janine's phone. And this cameo from Kevin Hart was so funny, because he was disgusted by the idea that this woman has been stalking him and that he could be her dad. Like, this was not something he perceived, and he was very bothered with all of her attempts.
Yeah, this was, and so I had an inkling that we might get something, because there's no way they could write this episode without Kevin Hart being in on the joke, right? They can't just they could not just make this a thorough line if Kevin Hart did not sign off on this, right?
Right.
In the TV show world. But I could not believe that they did it in this way, and that it felt like it was such a satisfying ending for me of putting this to bed. We get the Kevin Hart cameo. Kevin Hart's also a Philly native, so it's another one to add to our roster here. But he wants no part of this ridiculousness. He knows that he is not the dad. Really, Janine knows that he is not the dad at this point too. But they are kind of, what's the word? They just kind of want to put this to rest. We get a nice little sneak peek in there, but other than that, it is done. But Kevin Hart does know Mr. Johnson, and we get a nice little conversation from them too. And I love that. Someone finally showing appreciation for our man.
Mr. Johnson is everywhere He's everything. You know, every time we see Mr. Johnson, he shows us something new about him that I love this man. Such a perfect character. But the fact that Kevin Hart knows Mr. Johnson could have saved Janine so much time, because it looks like if Mr. Johnson just called up Kevin Hart, he would have picked up and been like, "Hey, what's up, Mr. Johnson? What do you
I
need to
didn't even
know?"
think of that.
Yeah, it's like at the end we find out that she was 1 degree of separation away from this man the entire time. Um, you know, it was a fun ride to get to that point, but yeah, I'm kind of with Ava. Ava gives some great words of wisdom where she says, you know, like you said, would you rather have a neglectful father or no father? And it's kind of like, honestly, if your life is fine without a father, you've grown up, you're relatively successful, you got a job that you like, you're not unhappy, you're not miserable, you don't feel like you were stunted in anything except your growth, Janine. Um, you don't need a father. You're grown. You don't have to have that if that's not for you. Now, some people who desire that, that's cool too. But you know, finding out that he was neglectful or like a deadbeat or awful person, it probably wouldn't do great for your spirit either. So take this as a win, and then move on. You know, and try and love yourself. You don't need to get that love from an outside source.
Yeah, I just don't necessarily think that like it adds anything to Janine's character
Right.
to know who her dad is, or that like there's going to be anything added to like her growth by knowing, maybe. And you know, for some people, yeah, when they it could be a positive change to their life to know their absentee parent, if that parent is receptive to getting to know them. But I'm also kind of on the side of you, like, I don't need to deal with any more heartbreak either. And
Mm-mm.
I don't think that it necessarily adds anything to the show to be like people are magically finding out who their absentee parent is. Like the show is strong with us having characters that don't know who their like their dad is, or not having like their parent, like a parent in their life. Like it gives us a little bit of diversity, and I think that some like positive representation in there as well, seeing characters be successful without both parents in their lives.
Right. And we talk a lot about dads being in this episode because it's Kevin Hart, obviously. But it's Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day, and we learn a little bit more about Barbara and Gregory. So we find out that
Mhm.
Gregory lost his mom at a very young age, and he doesn't really love celebrating Mother's Day because constantly talking about his mom will remind him about, you know, what it'll make him sad, honestly. And Barbara has lost her mom as well, but she's taken a different approach to grieving. She wants to surround herself by family and really encourage other people to express their love to their mothers, which I think they're two very valid ways of grieving and bereavement and all that good stuff. But then they start to clash because when Melissa and Barbara see that Gregory's wall decoration for his kids, for his students, is lackluster or not up to their liking, they go and confront him and end up inviting him to Barbara's house for Mother's Day meal, right? A Mother's Day feast. The moment they did this, the moment it happened, Gia, I immediately says, I wonder if his ex-girlfriend is going to be there because that would be awkward. And then boom, next thing you know, Gregory meets Taylor in Barbara's living room, and my mouth was on the floor. I was like, I cannot believe Abbott's going to do this.
I could not believe that they, like, first of all, the fact that they didn't bring it up when the invite was extended, because it was like, they're like, she's gonna be there, right? Like, it's Mother's Day, like she's gonna be there.
He's going to be there.
And she was with her new boyfriend, and just no one even mentioned it or acknowledged it. It was weird. It was a weird thing, and that's not even the weirdest thing that happened to this group of individuals this episode.
No, no. So the feast is kind of weird because you got a lot of frenetic energy from Barbara. She wants to have the feast. She wants to do everything for everybody. She's trying to dote and mother everybody in this Mother's Day. But Mother's Day is supposed to be for her too. She's supposed to be able to enjoy Mother's Day, but she's too busy baking and putting out fires and helping the kids and trying to get Gregory introduced to everybody. Melissa's looking on and kind of watching Barbara bounce off the walls this entire time, but they are able to settle down for a meal. And yeah, this is when it gets very awkward because Barbara makes the meal basically all about Gregory under the intention of, hey, let me try to cheer him up by honoring his mother in these moments. And I could see that Gregory just wanted to rip his skin off and run out of the room. You know, he was so uncomfortable, and this was kind of hard to watch.
It was it was awkward because this is, and like also, something that I think they could have driven home a little harder here is that this is the first Mother's Day Barbara has without her mother, I
Mhm.
believe, whereas Gregory has had time to adapt to the fact that like his mom is not alive, right? Like he has had many Mother's Days where she was not around. Um
Mhm.
and so he has come up with his own kind of coping mechanisms here, and he is being reintroduced to someone else's trauma, and by proxy his own, by the fact that like Barbara just lost her mother as well. um it was very awkward. I think her family members, Barbara's family members, her husband, and I think it's her sister, um made up for it with just how over the top they were this entire time, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. So Barbara she said she lost her mom a few years ago, but it still
Oh,
feels like it's
okay.
fresher. But to your point, than Gregory's, right? Gregory lost his mom 20 years ago, you know,
Yes.
and so he's been coping for a very long time. Where it's like it feels like Barbara's still trying to get a hold of it. She is surrounded by her family, which is nice, but she's now making her family surround Gregory. I have been to functions, the praying functions, you know, the kind where you're in a room and you're religious, but you do not hold a candle to the religious people around you. They are way more religious than you. They know God better than you. They're very good friends with Jesus as well. And they are going to pray for you specifically. And I I don't know. I don't know who directed this episode, but they've been there before. You know, like you have to put yourself in a special place where you are seeing people do good things and nice things for you and something that out the kindness of your heart, you just don't want it at all. You know, you're like, I just don't want this. I want to be left alone. He wants to go to topless golf. He doesn't want to be there.
Not topless
Top
golf.
golf. Top golf. My bad. Typo or something.
The I knew exactly where this was going when they asked Gregory if his family are huggers. Chappell, are your family huggers?
My family is a hug. They're the
Yeah.
huggers. They're the
No,
hugger family. You can call them
no,
that.
nope, absolutely not. I love, we do a side hug will suffice.
Oh
Um,
no. My family will
yes,
tackle you. They will
yeah,
tackle you through a wall if you try
yeah,
to resist
no.
the hug.
So I have a big family. Love them very much. I think a side hug is usually what is called for, and then we can move on with our day. We move on with the festivities. So
Mm.
when they did like the hug for, again, a loss of 20 years ago, I felt that pain in Gregory, like right here. Even talking about it now, I like feel my heart like just like
Mhm.
clench a little bit. I'm like, oh my god, like I don't think I could do that. It's so uncomfortable. I don't like new people hugging me without my consent. Like I know they meant well, and they were trying to like, welcome him into the family, but like if they could welcome him into the family a little less, I would
Yeah.
appreciate that. I do love though that we are seeing more of Gerald, Barbara's husband. Like
Yeah, me too.
he's a nerd. Like he's a goofball. Like he's just as like over the top and into like like as big of a believer, as big as lover of God, a lover of like the church, and lover of like his family as Barbara is. So like they're adorable together, but he has also got his own eccentricities, and I love him for it. More
Yeah.
eccentric black men on TV.
Yep. Abbott. Look,
Mr.
Abbott is
Johnson,
giving us everything we
Mr.
need.
Johnson and Gerald cannot be the only two.
Mr. Johnson, Gerald, and Tariq, the big three of Abbott
Yes,
Elementary.
you
Yeah.
are right. Yes,
Write the spinoff. Write the spinoff right now.
I know. I would watch a buddy comedy with those three, like a road trip. I know
Oh yeah.
they're all around. Like it could be like Tariq and his granddad and his granddad's friend or something like that. Like it's work. It's a work in progress, but like I would watch it.
Yeah. So my family, they're the huggers. We love a good hug. But see, our thing is that we adopt people immediately. Like if you come to a family function, welcome to this family function. When will you be at the next one? You know, like that's when we start to, okay, pull up your Google Calendar. Let me tell you when all the future events are going to be. And so I relate to that energy a lot from Barbara. Like if you show up at any of our family functions, the next function, at least 4 people are going to ask where you went. Like, where is that person? We really love them. They're going to add you on Facebook. It's just how we get down. I'm sorry. Maybe it's a Texas thing. But at the same time, they cannot adopt Gregory into this family. Him and Taylor had a bad breakup, and she's still right there. You know, he's not allowed to join this family. So I felt awkward for so many reasons watching this. But you know, you could tell their heart was in a good place. Ultimately, Barbara will realize, and Melissa helps her get there, but she realizes that she was maybe being a little bit overbearing, and that she hadn't actually sat and enjoyed her Mother's Day for what it was for her, right? So she does go to Top Golf and have a few home runs with Gregory and really apologize to him about the way she was trying to force him to live in her traditions when he has his own Mother's Day tradition. So it was very touching.
Yeah, this was a really nice one. I think also just again, like there are certain duos that we don't get a ton of. And I think like Barbara has her set people. So we don't always get a lot of like meaningful moments like this between like Barbara and Gregory, but this is a good pair. This is a good storyline to kind of flesh out and learn a little bit more about both of their families. I think it makes sense. We haven't really even seen Gregory like mention his mom in the past. So there was a lot unsaid about whether, you know, like if she's not in the pit, you know, we could assume that she was not with the Gregory's dad anymore, because we've seen Gregory's dad but not his mom. But like just wondering kind of what that family dynamic is like. And now we're starting to get a little bit more about Gregory. We get to see actually some of Barbara's family. And I think it makes sense. It's like starting to put all the pieces together. It was good. It was a good episode. Let's not give too much credit to Melissa though, because she was there for the mess. She was not there to be helpful. Like she supported Barbara when she was stressed out, but she was not there to be helpful at any point. And she's right about that. Actually, I would say of the families we have known so far, my family would be the Shementis. I showed this.
There's a lot of y'all.
There is a lot of us. Now my dad does not drink, so this would not apply to like his side of the family, but I showed this episode to my mom, and the line where they said, we celebrate Mother's Day by getting drunk as a family, so I can't show up. Like that is me and my mother for Mother's Day. You know, we had several glasses of wine, and yes, I do mean 7, and several glasses of wine, watched some Abbott, some Food Network shows, and had a grand old time.
No, the Shementis are the family to watch for sure. But we haven't talked about the other mothers, Gia. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. I really want to see the rest of the Shementis, like at some point, especially Seamus. There were a lot of Seamus throwbacks in there, but we did not get Krista Marie yet this season. I would love to meet more of the Shementis in there.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that and see if we can track it for next season, because I don't think they're going to be in this season at all. There's only 2 more episodes left, so I doubt it. But the other mothers have arrived. Okay.
Yes!
Jacob goes to a drag brunch. It's Mother Day, I believe, is what it's called. And he's there with Erica and Janine, because obviously Janine's not going to be celebrating with her mom, and Jacob's going to be he wants to do the drag thing, and so he goes. And we've talked about Abbott having money. Okay, we've had Kevin Hart, we've had Questlove. We've had so many people.
So many. But
then I look up and I'm like, I recognize that drag queen. And I don't even keep up with drag queens like that. So you know this is a megastar. I was like, is that Shea Coulee? Is that Simone? They have both of them on there. When we get Shea Coulee money, Gia?
Well, we've had Shea Coulee money. I think once Bradley Cooper was on there, I felt it was like all the possibilities. Jalen Hurst, all of the like. Once season 3 premiere came on, I'm like, we have funds this season. We have the funding. We have the money. And you know, there have been several requests for Abbott to have drag queen cameos. Like, Drag Race is more popular than ever. I think it makes sense. A lot of them are stars, not just from their time in Drag Race, but like stars on social media, stars for their work outside of Drag Race. Like, they are stars. So they're like another, I want to say like another type of celebrity. Like, like they're like a new, not new. Drag is not new. But I feel like there is a dedicated fan base to Drag Race that want to see their queens in other works, as they should. And we are getting them in Abbott Elementary. So I had a feeling we would get Drag Race cameos at some point. But this one, it kind of like, I was like, oh my God, like that hit me right away. Like that is, I was not expecting it, but I am so glad we got it here. And it was very fun to see.
Yep, we have Shea Coulee as Lisa Kondo and Simone as Divine Intervention as our celebrity drag queens. And I don't even watch Drag Race. It's just in that reality TV sphere that I found myself in. I see a lot of reality TV shows. I've seen Drag Race before for sure, but even I recognize that, like, those aren't just regular drag queens. Those aren't your run-of-the-mill drag queens. These are mega stars. And so, somewhere the drag community is like fist pumping because I had to go look at Reddit and I saw there have been posts before where people were saying, oh, well, maybe drag queens could come on in this capacity in Abbott and in this capacity in Abbott. And I think that, this show is so fun and it made so much sense for this kind of brunch to happen for someone like Jacob to be watching, because Jacob seems like he's in for a good time. And so, they were fun. And they even helped Jacob solve one of his problems in this episode because Jacob wants to throw a field trip, but we don't have field trip money. That's one thing we do not have. We are in the black or the red, or whichever one means that we don't have any money. The red. We're in the red.
We are in the red.
We're in the red. Yes.
But it was a great time. I did love. Did you see the what the PTA banner stood for?
No, what was it?
It was parents throwing ass.
Yeah, so Tariq is hosting the PTA meeting. Jacob has to go ask for money, and parent throwing ass is what we're calling the new PTA club, the PTA meeting.
Because it needs to be a club that parents will actually want to join, and therefore by 2027 quarter four, we will begin to see a profit. Quarter four. Honestly, is it the best executed plan? No. But I kind of see his point here.
Yeah. Look.
Yeah, like, who wants to join a PTA? Like that, I'm sorry. It's just like if there's not free food, free snacks, I am not going. Now if you told me that it is nigiri, I will be there. I will be there real quick. I love me some sushi.
It is pretty messed up that Tariq is misappropriating these funds to make sure that the PTA is eating sushi adjacent foods while the kids are struggling to go on field trips. But also, if it works, we're all better off.
I would argue that this is the exact appropriate way to be using funds because, PTA is a thankless job. It's not even a job because you don't get paid to do it. And, like, his plan worked. There are parents present at the PTA meeting. It's usually just like one or two really annoying people. So like, it's just like the Karens that just want to have control over something because they've lost control of their life with their bratty kids. So I have feelings about Karens and PTA. So now it's like fun people want to join the PTA.
Right. If there's ass to be thrown, people gonna be there. And I'm definitely one of people.
I'm just saying, like, this made me almost want to have kids.
Yeah, almost,
which is closer than it's ever been.
Because one day I too could be at a parent throwing ass meeting.
Yes, I think I would go the Tariq route though. I would be like I would date a parent and have like a Gia Junior. They would. I assume they would change their name, right?
Right. We could push for it. The other thing that happens, obviously, at the drag brunch is that Jacob realizes that there are certain things that you can do for free that you could really use for a field trip. And the park is always free, literally always. And so Shea Coulee gives Jacob the idea, and he decides to go book the park for the future field trip that we will see in the next episode of Abbott Elementary. But in the meantime, that wraps up these 2 episodes. Did I miss anything, Gia?
I didn't know you had to book a park.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just like maybe like you got to reserve kind of like like the gazebo
Yeah,
area kind of situation.
it's smart, but I've
Yeah.
just never heard of such a thing. Maybe because like I don't live in Philadelphia. I live in the the parks that you warn kids about. Um,
Mm, yeah, been
but
there.
yes, yes. But it's home. It's home. We love it. And
Mm.
so, but you don't have to make reservations there. But I am so excited because we're getting another field trip episode. So I feel like this is a seasonal thing. We had the zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo in season 1. We had the museum, the science
Mhm.
museum in season 2, and now we are going to the park. The another Philly, what's it called? Like landscape, another Philly
Landmark,
yeah,
staple or something.
landmark.
Yeah,
I think
we're just leaving.
yeah,
We're leaving the school,
we're going off campus. And I
Mhm.
am so excited for the field trip episode. I love a good field trip. We all love field trips, but I am very excited to see this.
Right. To me, it felt like you have to reserve maybe like the seating area, and they're taking all the kids, like because all the teachers teach different classes. Like there's no reason where Gregory's kids and Melissa's kids and Barbara's kids will all be at the park at the same
Yeah.
time, unless you literally have to say, okay, no outsiders at this park, which of course you would want, right? You would
Yeah.
definitely not want another school showing up and rattling the cages or taking anybody's spot or pushing your kids out of line. You wouldn't want any of that, Gia.
I mean, as a parent or a teacher, you would not want that. As viewers on a TV show, I might want to see teachers fighting teachers, just a little bit.
Yep, teaching fighter teachers, which is what we could have in the next episode. But in the meantime, Gia, this has been fun. Episodes 11 and 12 are a wrap. Very fun episodes. I enjoyed them, but I'm dying to see how this season of Abbott Elementary ends. So, Gia, what you got going on in the meantime?
Oh my God. So you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Classically Gia for all of my reality TV shenanigans. On Silent Podcast, I am covering Survivor 46 on my podcast. I don't know about that, but I'm also covering Top Chef Wisconsin this season with the Quick Fire Queens. That's myself, Nicole Horn, and Naomi Calhoun. Definitely give it a listen. I'm really enjoying both Survivor 46 and Top Chef Wisconsin. So I think these are definitely great seasons to be discussing. And then on Inside Survivor, I'm doing my weekly roundups with my good friend Christine Palin. But also, we have drafted 50 players that we want to see for Survivor 50 in a new excerpt called 50 for 50. And when the season is over, we'll be starting to publish articles in the off season about some of these players that we want to see. I have my list and I'm very excited to release it into the wild and let people have at it. So stay tuned for more information on that.
All right. As far as I go, here at Recap Kickback, trying to deliver a lot of good content for all of you listeners. Thank you all for liking and subscribing and keeping up with everything I have going on. Obviously, here we got coverage of Summer House Martha's Vineyard as Sasha and I are wrapping up that season of television. And then, every Thursday we try to come out with some new Recap Kickback content. If you've been following closely, we've talked about Challengers, the movie with Zendaya. We've talked about the rap beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, which is doing really, really well on social media. So I do appreciate that from all the people who shared it, all the people who went and checked it out and clicked like on that, because that's how you find all the stuff that we have here on Recap Kickback. And that's how you help other people find it too. So keep doing that, keep sharing, keep supporting, keep clicking like, subscribe, because we're creeping up on 1,000 subscribers. So our most recent episode, Black Twitter, A People's History, included a panel discussion with me and Nicole Weaver and Jay West and Tyrone. And so check that out. And then catch me on RHAP. Rob has a podcast where I'm talking about reality TV shows. I'm talking about The GOAT on Amazon Freebie, which is weird because why is that a channel? But we're talking about it. We also are talking about MILF Manor, again, y'all probably thinking, Chappell, what are you doing? But it's a good time. Puya's hosting the MILF Manor recap podcast. If you haven't listened or talked, well, if you haven't watched MILF Manor on TLC, go check it out and then check out the podcast with Puya, Jenny, Rob, and myself. We wrapped up Deal or No Deal Island coverage over there, but Sasha and I are still talking about Below Deck every Wednesday live on YouTube at 3:00 p.m. Eastern. And Survivor's about done. Rob and I will be recording one more Club Condo to wrap up the Survivor 46 season and to prepare for some off-season coverage, and then in the future, Big Brother. So a lot coming your way, but in order to keep up with all of that, follow me on Twitter at Recap Kickback, or, subscribe to the podcast at recapkickback.com. But for Gia and myself, you ain't got to go home, but class is now over. We will catch you all next week on Abbott Elementary, a post-show recaps. Until then, peace.